limited because of lack of personnel. Do you think this is a problem, and how should it be addressed?
Just talking about the noise abatement. The License Commission does have several individuals on staff who are trained with the decibels to go out when there are complaints from certain buildings to record those decibels. They will be out there at 1 o'clock in the morning, they'll be at 5 o'clock in the morning, or during the day, whenever it is appropriate. So when the people have complaints, especially about the noise from different buildings, it is the License Commission that is notified, and they will come out and monitor. If that building is found in violation, then they are brought before the License Commission and are told to take the appropriate steps. This has been an issue that's ongoing, and I want to say, as part of the rezoning with the Alexandria, all of those buildings will have the appropriate noise abatement levels, so it will not affect people. So they have built that into the zoning to control the noise that will be coming from those buildings.
Henrietta Davis.
Noise has been one of the issues that I've worked on consistently on the council. Starting with one of my early victories was changing the ordinance so that cars that were alarming could be towed from private property, and I think that's been a great success. And then I worked on the noise ordinance related to leaf blowers, and we have a new ordinance that limits leaf blowers a lot. That helps, but it's confusing enough that nobody wants to use a leaf blower. It's too scary. You never know when you're going to get caught. And then as far as the as noise from buildings, I'm not satisfied with our noise ordinance. I'm not satisfied with our enforcement. I'm always pushing for more, and I would welcome the assistance of any in the audience to help me do that.
Well, I didn't come to the council with concerns about noise, but during my tenure, my concerns have grown, and I'm one of the people who led the initiative to get the leaf blower ordinance so they couldn't be run at certain times of day, because you don't want to get home for dinner and sit in your backyard and suddenly the leaf people show up with the loudest sounds you could imagine. I will say this, though. Amongst my constituents, how noise comes up is I stand for the right of you as a native Cantabrigian on the 4th of July, if you have a party, you can turn the music up a little bit. And I've spent a lot of time in court in this year with a Cantabrigian who, every time you call the Cambridge police, they must come. So it makes this dynamic tension. So every time you call the police, they turn down the noise. And so the police get mad about coming, and it's not the best situation, but it is much enforced. So I do stand for holiday music, although otherwise you shouldn't disturb your neighbors.
Tim. The Green Line extension has now been delayed to at least 2018 and maybe longer. What is your opinion of the impact of this delay on Cambridge? How do you characterize the city's response to the delay? And what, if anything, have you done or would you do regarding this delay? Mr. Toomey. Mr. Marquardt.
First, I want to thank Councilor Toomey, who's my state rep as well, until probably the next election when I got redistricted. He's been a stalwart here, which is wonderful. But I didn't let it stop at that. I've written comments on the draft environmental review, the final environmental review. We worked hard to get the maintenance facility relocated. I just wrote comments that were due on the delay to MassDOT last week. They were due on the 20th. And I know Councilor Toomey put in a comment on that. Was at the Conservation Law Foundation with the mayor of Somerville in terms of what was going to happen, and Councilor Rep. Toomey's staff was there. What is unique, though, is the city of Cambridge has been largely invisible at the administrative level. We're sending second, at best, third-tier players, and Somerville is sending the mayor, the alderman, their entire developmental staff. We're not. It's very disappointing that this is something that can be transformative to East Cambridge, knitting together the whole entire East Cambridge neighborhood into Somerville. This is a shovel-ready job, if there was ever a shovel-ready job, and we're silent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves.
Well, I've been on the council for 22 years, and this issue was here when I got here. But I am an internal optimist, so I'm hoping that the governor, who likes to have dinner with the president here and in Washington, will whisper in his ear that if he's doing stimulus funds, he knows of a certain project that would impact Cambridge and Somerville that could use some of those resources. The issue is money. The state does not have a lot of money to do this project, but it has promised to do it. And it is just incredible to see a promise made by government not kept. So hope springs eternal.
The Foundry building is scheduled to be turned over to the city soon as a result of a mitigation agreement between the city and Alexandria Equity Properties. Although there are senior centers in North and Central Cambridge, there is not one in East Cambridge, and many would like to see a portion of this building dedicated to this use, with East End House to oversee activities there. What is your opinion about this plan? Do you feel that the city government is as transparent as it should or could be? What could be changed? Kelly.
I think there's a difference between transparency and communication. I think the city communicates a variety of things very well. There's a huge amount of information out there. I think transparency is when people get to see what you're doing. And in a democracy, I think it's when they get advance notice that you're going to be doing it. And I think we at the council fail that miserably. I think we abuse executive session and go into executive session to discuss things that arguably, at least partially, could be more openly discussed. And I think we suspend the rules at the drop of a hat to bring things up that no one on earth knew were going to be discussed 2 minutes before. And I don't think that's a good way to do government. I think we should be much, much, much more open and transparent about what we talk about.
Thank you. Mr. Marquardt.
The answer is yes, we can always get better. And I'm going to take it away from the executive committee because that seems to be executive session. That seems to be where everybody's heading. I'm going to go someplace else. We talked early on about zoning and how zoning happens and how those decisions happen. I think one of the great frustrations is the lack of ability for most people, unless you get up and go, to see how a BZA hearing goes, a planning board hearing goes, many of the other city council committee hearings go, and that's just due to a lack of audio-visual capabilities throughout the city. We are in a world-class city where we're making up Facebook before it moved, and other cutting-edge technologies. The fact that we can't televise live the majority of our meetings is sort of embarrassing. Thank you.
Mr. Reeves.
Well, I've seen the word transparency seem to take on a particular meaning, but I guess my concern is that so few people attend public meetings. I read a statement the other day where someone said that most people in Cambridge don't know who the mayor is. The uninformed public, it deeply bothers me, and we unfortunately do not have newspaper vehicles that are accurate or that connect with people. So I feel that people are in an information void in general. Transparency, I don't have a feeling that government is trying to hide things.
Thank you.
I've felt that we don't have enough information out there for a long time. I think I'm very frustrated by having a weekly newspaper that's pretty thin. I don't want to insult anybody in person, but I think we could do better with a better paper. I mean, at the risk of being self-serving, and this is a candidate's night, I mean, one of the things that I do is I put out information all the time. So I put out a newsletter twice a year. It helps people to know what's going on. I do a farmer's market card, so you know when the farmer's markets are meeting, and I have a useful number phone card. And people love these things because they're starving for information. That's why. And I also want to take credit for something that I got the Google search to be on the city search engine, so instead of getting everything under the sun, when you look for a topic, you would actually get what you wanted.
Thank you very much. Council, keep approving the school committee's spending twice the state average on our schools with below average results. What should be cut? Mr. Seidel.
Thank you. I've had the chance to examine some of these budgets. I have voted for them. I take a couple of views that all fold into the same thing. I think the school committee budget needs to be much clearer as a budget, so it's much more understandable. They have made strides in that direction, and they continue to. There is a new superintendent to give direction to the schools, and I support him in his work. And most importantly, there is an elected school committee, and it is their job to develop the policies and the budgetary priorities and, in conjunction with the superintendent, the dollar amounts for the schools. I do not intend to superimpose my judgment on the schools and the school committee that is paid by you to make these decisions themselves. I will engage them in conversation. I will talk about ways in which we ought to move forward, but I do not believe it is my job, nor should it be, to change their direction.
Mr. Nelson.
You don't like the way the school department is running, or you don't like the way the city council is running, you control it. Vote for somebody else. It's not that complicated. We could talk about all the different issues and all these different things that are going on within these systems, but in fact, you can't give up your control over them because you can vote us in or out. That is your right, and that is what we need to be thinking about. We're talking about what this little thing and this little nuance. The budget is up or down. You voted up or down. When it gets to you, you say yay or nay to the budget, and that's it. But you as individuals, we as citizens can say, you know what, I don't like the fact that we're spending $25,000 a year, and I don't think we're getting what we want. Okay, who are those people making those decisions for $25,000 a year? I don't like the decisions they're making. Vote them out. If I like the decisions they're making, I'll keep them in. But to keep bantering this question around and putting it on this gap and that gap, this, that, the other, talk about the reality of the situation.
Thank
Who's
you.
running the show?
Thank you. Mr. Do you believe North Point is part of East Cambridge? And do you feel the mitigation monies for this area should be used for the area? Mr. Reeves.
I think if we're in charge of public development rights, that mitigation is appropriate. I think this is somewhat of a quicksand question, but I would say this, that I think that North Point is in the eastern sector of the city, and I'm not a supporter of the balkanization of the city. We have certain areas like North Cambridge that don't have significant development and therefore would never get particular benefits unless we look at the city as a whole. So I see a whole Cambridge. I'm not just for east or west, I'm from the whole thing.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson will be responding first. The question is, what is your vision for the future development of Cambridge as a place to work and live? And how would you, as a city councilor, work to accomplish this vision? Why should you be elected?
And thanks to everyone for staying tonight. This has been a great discussion, and thanks to everyone up here with me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to more. I envision Cambridge being the model city it has always strived to be. I envision walking through Kendall Square and witnessing Cambridge's young people taking part in the innovation there with internships and part-time employment. I envision creative redesigns to some of our mansions, turning them into 2 and 3 units, helping our residents age in place, and helping to create more affordable family housing. I envision pedicabs and other forms of eco-friendly transportation. I envision the center of Harvard Square being pedestrian only. Most importantly, I see Cambridge that is still home to a diverse community and unique neighborhoods for all income levels. A place where if you grow up here, you can still afford to live here later in life if you still choose. To accomplish these goals, we need to be persistent and bold, and we need to make sure that we use all the tools at our disposal. I am a lifelong Cambridgian. Having just finished my master's degree in public administration and having been a community organizer for the last 7 years, I feel that I bring a unique vision to Cambridge, both remembering Cambridge's past and looking on to Cambridge's future. And I ask for your #1 vote on November 8th.